When it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy, honestly, the first film worked extraordinarily well for what it was trying to do, by giving us a mixed group of ragtag misfits from across the galaxy, all putting their unique sets of skills to use for the greater good. It was wholesome, funny, heartbreaking, and unique compared to the rest of superhero films out there at the time. A breath of fresh air, if you will, for the genre itself, and a much-needed remedy for the formulaic writing all the others seem to possess. Guardians 2 may have ultimately tried its very best to replicate the success of the first one, but needless to say, it simply fell short due to a villain that was too easily defeated and soulless in every aspect, despite being cast by such a great actor. After this, well, James Gunn himself was outed for his extremely controversial and repulsive takes on humor from his past. That basically led to him getting cancelled for a while, leading us all to believe that Guardians 3 may never be allowed to happen, and if it did, that there'd be no way for it to have the same spirit and feeling as the other two without him there to finish what he started. But alas, James Gunn was uncancelled, and eventually allowed to give us what we'd all been waiting for, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And well, now that it's finally here, is it actually worth seeing? Well, in an era where Marvel is hell-bent on putting out the absolute worst superhero content imaginable, with films that nobody is even asking for, yeah, surprisingly, Guardians 3 does exactly what Spider-Man No Way Home once did, and gives us all a healthy dose of what we originally liked Marvel films for in the first place. An actually good movie that DC on its best of days struggles to deliver us unless it has Christopher Nolan's name on it. With that being said, due to Marvel constantly trying to shove a certain woke ideology pie in everyone's face, with almost every new movie or TV show they release, it's almost as though Guardians 3 was destined to be one of, if not the very last film anyone is genuinely looking forward to from Marvel. The sheer fact that not once in Guardians 3 is Thor even mentioned as ever having been part of the group whatsoever is clear enough that Taika Waititi's Thor Love and Thunder was an absolute pile of shit, not worthy of even being addressed or even associated with the Guardians ever again. It honestly does exactly what we all do in order to convince ourselves each morning that life is still worth living in the first place, and that's pretending that the likes of Thor Love and Thunder was a mere fever dream that doesn't actually exist. This film ultimately being all the better for it as a result, by seemingly picking up right where things left off after the events of Endgame. Spider-Man No Way Home may have previously been the only film worth anyone's time up to this point after the events of Endgame, but Guardians 3 definitely fills its role as a welcome addition to the good portion of Marvel's content roster. It does this with an excellently executed performance from the actor playing the High Evolutionary, a great backstory concerning the origins of Rocket, and most importantly, actually allowing Peter Quill to be the leader of the group, instead of turning him into a bumbling idiot, constantly upstaged in every way by his female counterparts, just to make them look more competent or capable of being in the leadership roles. The dumbing down of male characters for cheap laughs constantly being a theme for Marvel at this point really has eroded most of my interest in any of its upcoming projects whatsoever. But luckily, not too much of that takes place here concerning Quill. However, something that can't be left unaddressed is the fact that due to the flimsy excuse of waking him up too early, does Adam Warlock sadly get thrown under this bus for this exact reason. Instead of him being introduced as someone worth taking seriously, due to this blatant excuse to dumb him down to having the naivety and brain capacity of a child, sadly, any Adam Warlock fans will undoubtedly leave disappointed if they had any hopes of this character ever being considered a competent adult in this film. Cause yeah, let's dumb him down for laughs. That's cool, right? Anyways, my only real complaints outside of this is undoubtedly the runtime. Constantly being barraged with songs that never needed to be in this film whatsoever throughout, and the complete tossing out of the character we all liked in Gamora from the previous films, stripping her character of all her charm and any likable characteristics or relatability in this film, couldn't have been a bigger mistake if you ask me. To put it simply, in Guardians 3, Gamora's whole personality sucks so bad that she only ever comes off as either a complete dick to everyone she sees, or a whiny child being forced to go to school when she simply doesn't wanna. All of the Guardians' missions being a chore to her for some reason, as though the Ravagers are magically so much cooler to do missions with, for no reason whatsoever. Either way, if I had to sum up Guardians 3 next to the previous two Guardians films, I'd say Guardians 1 was, and still is, the undisputed best of the trilogy. But next to Guardians 2, something about this third installment was just, well, better. Maybe having an antagonist that's more interesting than both Ego or Kang the Conqueror is what does it for me. Or maybe it's Rocket's backstory, or the refined comedic timing with Drax compared to the second one that does it. Or maybe it's the fact that the character development for these characters is so high that even the likes of Nebula is somehow a relatable character at this point. Even with the old Gamora being absent in this film and being replaced with this total asshole, I'd say the villain of the second Guardians film is what holds it back from taking second place. The easily accessible core of the planet that was Ego's brain, literally being able to be flown to, just made no sense to me. It's like telling me you could magically fly to the center of the Earth instead of dig your way there through the toughness of the Earth's crust and mantle, simply because the plot needs the core, or his brain, to be so easily accessible. Like seriously, Ego, why you didn't use Earth itself as an example and have a crust or mantle to protect your literal brain is beyond me. But I get it, you needed a way to die for the plot, so flying there just had to be an option, I guess. Even still, Ego's charisma next to the High Evolutionary isn't even in the same ballpark. But with the emphasis on Yondu's character and relationship with Quill being so high, Guardians 2 definitely has its moments that hold it together. Maybe not from the antagonist, but definitely from Yondu himself. And if not for him, I don't think Guardians 2 would even be worth comparing to Guardians 3. Also, since Guardians 3 has its touching moments with Rocket's backstory and such a great antagonist with the High Evolutionary compared to Kurt Russell's Ego, I'd actually say it's close-ish. But Guardians 3 simply brings home the win compared to Guardians 2. So if I had to rate the Guardians trilogy from best to worst, I'd say Guardians 1 undisputably takes first place, second place would have to go to Guardians 3, and third place would have to go to Guardians 2 thanks to Ego. Needless to say though, these characters were a joy to watch, and well, it was a good run, and I'm glad we got to see these characters get finished by James Gunn over anyone else, considering, if not finished by Gunn himself, the third film might have lacked the same feeling and vision he had for these characters, next to the first two of course. But that's only provided if Gunn had stayed cancelled and someone else took over. Which in this case, you just have to learn to separate the art from the artist. And, well, if you do that, you'll be all the better for it and have no problems watching this trilogy. Anyways, I hope you guys like this review, so feel free to comment down below and let me know what movie you'd like me to review next. Whether it's a feel-good film that ultimately ends what it started on a good positive note, or whether it's another woke, preachy piece of shit addition to an already oversaturated genre that is superhero content these days. Remember, I'll fucking judge.